Ashton. Okay, so, hi guys. Hi. Who doesn't know who I am? Anybody not know who I am? Oh, no one knows who I am. That's good. Okay, well, my name's Rachel. You can call me Rach. It's all good. I am 20 years old. I know I'm so old. And let me get situated here for a second. I have been a Christian since 2001. I don't think I really understood what that meant until 2007. I am fixing to be a junior in college, and couldn't be more excited about that. How many of you guys are seniors in high school, just graduated, or about to be a senior, or about to be a junior, whatever? Any of you guys? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, about my story, kind of in those years, and kind of my first semester of college, so, 17, 18 years old, which some of you guys are, so you might be able to relate. When I was in high school, I was president of choir. I was like, y'all all know I sing on Sundays and in here sometimes, and like that was my thing. That was what, some people play football, some people play basketball, some people do drama club, whatever it is that y'all do in high school. Choir was my thing. That was what I did, and that's where I fit in. So I enjoyed that. I did that all 4 years. It was the greatest part about high school for me. So when I got up to be a senior, all my friends were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go to college. We're gonna study music. We're gonna study music in college. We're just gonna keep on with this music train we've been on for 4 years. We're just gonna keep on with that." And I was like, "Yeah, music is what I've done since I was in first grade." And I was like, obviously that's what I'm gonna do with my life. Obviously, like, duh. Little did I know God had other plans. Kind of hit me in the face with that, but I'll tell you about that in a second. Well, it gets to May of my senior year, and I've only applied at one place. I was determined to go to this one school with my 3 best friends, Delta State. That's where Drew went. Drew graduated from Delta State. And my choir director in high school, that's where she went, graduated from. So we were like, oh yeah, we're all going to go here and be just like her. And I was super excited. But the thing about it is, guys, that I did not take any time to seek God in that decision. None. No time at all. It's kind of that whole, your mom always says, well, if your friend jump off the bridge, did you jump off with them? In that situation, yeah, I kind of did. I jumped right off that bridge without a bungee cord. So I'm all hyped up. My 3 best friends, we spend that whole summer together. I'm like, yeah, okay, we get down to college, and things completely change. I mean, my life completely flipped upside down. Me and my 2 girl best friends, we were all roommates. Our other best friend was a guy, so obviously that, didn't work out. But my 2 best friends were roommates. We had a bathroom that we shared, and I had a room to myself. I kind of looked out on that one. But anyway, so living with your best friends is not necessarily a great idea. You get to see sides of them that you wouldn't normally see. So by Thanksgiving, one of our roommates had moved out, and it was bad. One of my other roommates, she had joined a sorority, so I didn't get to see her very much. And my other roommate made new friends, so I never got to see her. And our best friend, who was a guy, got a girlfriend, so we never got to see him. So I was just kind of alone. And if you know me very well, you know that I'm not really a person that likes to be alone. I have my moments, but for the most part, I'm pretty good about having a decent amount of friends, and I've always been that way, and I like it that way. I like people. So that first semester of college for me was really hard. I was also in a relationship with a guy, and he was not who I needed to be dating at the time, and I knew that, but again, I didn't see God in that decision either. He lived here, and I was in Cleveland, which is about an hour-ish away, depends on how fast you drive. What did you say, hour 15?
Hour 45 minutes.
Oh, well, I made an hour. Anyway, so that whole semester, my first semester of college, I was miserable. I was just completely miserable, y'all. And I I called home every day, and I was like, Mom, please get me out of here, get me out of here. I want to go home. I want to go home. And I knew that because I hadn't spent the time to really pray about making this decision, I was like, man, I made a really bad choice. And now, I just had a really hard time that first semester because I had made that bad choice. And bad choices especially, a lot of times do not come without consequences. It stinks, but it happens. So finally, I get halfway through the semester. My parents are going to let me drop out. And I get to the admissions office, and I'm like, look, I'm dropping out. I'm going home. And the lady just kind of looks at me, and she's like, okay. And so I get the sheet, and I'm fixing to go take it to all my teachers, and I get a meeting with my choir director, and he's like, I really don't think this is the best decision for you, and all this stuff. And all my teachers were like, no, I think you should stay and everything. So they convinced me to stay the rest of the semester. So I did get college credit for my first semester, which was probably more of a wise decision than leaving in the middle of the semester. But anyway, so just that whole 4 months, I fell into this massive depression. And I'm sure some of you know how that feels. With stuff at home, stuff, I'm sure some of you know how that feels. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. I'd gotten really bad anxiety to where I couldn't even go to the cafeteria and eat. I was terrified to be around people. I lost 20 pounds. It was a bad time. It was a really bad time. And all that to say, God, He will give you opportunities and He'll take them away. Like, He does close doors. He opens them too, which is good, but He does close doors. I finally moved home, and there was about 6 months that I was just so angry. I was so just angry at God. The church I was going to, I grew up in, and they were without a youth pastor, without a pastor. I was not getting fed. I wasn't going much because I didn't see a point. I wasn't getting fed. There was no one there to really invest in my life. So there was about 6 months where I was just really, really, really down. When I was at college, I had started self-harming. I think a few of you in this room know. I've talked to you about it, but I really got in deep with that. It was a really awful experience, but I was to the point where the pain I had was so great I needed something else to focus on. A lot of people don't understand how people can self-harm, but unless you've been in that situation, you probably won't understand it. But sometimes God does take you out of your situations for your own protection. So I got home, and I had this really big urge to call a friend of mine, and I had no idea why. Well, I do now, but at the time I had no idea why. So I called him up, and I was like, dude, this is what's been going on in my life, and for some reason God just laid you on my heart, and He just told me I need to call you. He was like, what are you doing Friday night? And I was like, nothing. He was like, okay, you're coming to church with me. I was like, okay. So what I thought was just church turned out to be this program called Celebrate Recovery, and it was at Colonial Hills down the road. I got there, and it's kind of like AA, honestly. I didn't have a problem with alcohol, but it's for anything like hurts, hang-ups, any kind of bad habits, stuff you want to, move on from. I had been self-harming for a while, and December 14th, 2012 was the last day I harmed myself. Or 2012, sorry. December 14th, 2012 was the last day I harmed myself. I got chips for a certain amount of days that I went without. That program saved my life. It really did. I don't know where I would be if I didn't go there. But all that to say, guys, if you fall out of fellowship with God, if you're not seeking after Him in a way that He wants you to, He wants you to spend time with Him. That's our first blank. It's number one is quality time with God. During those 6 months, I was not in fellowship with God at all. The only times I ever talked to Him was when I was in my car alone screaming at Him. Literally screaming. Matthew 6:33 says, but seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Guys, once I finally got to the point where I was like, I can't keep living my life like this. It was in July, and I called Alan Goodwin. He was like, hey, you need to come to South Point. And because I was looking for a new church, I visited a couple places, and I just didn't find a place that was for me. He was like, "You need to come visit South Point." Okay. So in July, I started going back to South Point, and I started going to South Point. I left the church that I had grown up in my whole life. It was so hard, y'all. It was so hard. I had so many people there that were like family to me that I had known since I was 5 years old, and it was a really hard thing for me to do. But I knew that God was leading me to another place, which was here. But once I started getting back into that, quality time with God, spending time with Him, I got out of that depression finally. I got out of that depression, and things just, my spirits just lifted, y'all. I mean, I just can't even explain it. It's just, once you're in fellowship with God, when you're spending time with Him, things change. They change. Even if your circumstances on the outside are still bad, your countenance, your inside, your attitude, everything is going to change. It's going to be different. You have a different attitude about things. So that next blank I have there is constant prayer leads to clarity in changing seasons, which leads us kind of to the next blank there. But actually, Josh actually said that when we were talking, and I wrote it down, so I was like, dang, that works perfectly. So number 2 is relationships / seasons. You can put either one. But anyway, so the second and third blanks are more as God's control of your situation. Whereas, the first blank, quality time with God, like you have to make that effort. You have to make that effort to spend time with God. Whereas number 2, relationship seasons, He's going to put people in your life that are going to help you along the way. You know what I'm saying? Once I got back in church and I was at South Point, Josh and Brittany were going here. I've known Brittany since I was a wee little tot, probably 5 years old or so. Her family went to the church that I grew up in, so I've known Brittany for a very long time, and Josh since they started dating, and it blew my mind how many people God was putting in my life and investing in my life, because I'd never, up until I went to college, all I really had was kind of my youth pastor at the time, and then when I was in college, I had nobody, y'all. I wasn't in church. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have friends, really. I made like one friend down there, and she still wasn't even really the greatest person to be hanging out with. But anyway, so 2 Timothy 4:2 says, "Preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort, and complete patience in teaching." But yeah, so like I was saying, God He's going to put you through seasons, and your friend groups are going to change, especially when you get to college. Like those of you who are graduated, going to college, fixing to be a senior, whatever. College is that big time in your life when everything is going to change. It is. That's just life. Even when you get out of college. I know I'm talking about college a lot, but I mean that's where I am in life right now. So you'll get there eventually, and you'll realize. So, but as long as you stay faithful in those seasons, like you've got to stay faithful to God in those seasons, no matter how bad things get. Cause obviously when I was at Delta State, I was not in a very happy season of my life. And I was not faithful to God until around November, December, when God was calling me home, and I was like, okay, God, this is okay. So that third blank is opportunities. This kind of goes hand in hand with seasons. When you are living your life for Christ, I'm gonna apologize for stumbling so much and saying a lot. God's going to open doors. Like I said, He's going to open doors and close doors. I've had so many doors opened since I moved home from Delta State. And there's nothing wrong with that school. I'm not bashing that school at all. It just wasn't for me. I knew that I didn't see God in that decision. I knew that's where I knew that's where I wasn't supposed to be for 4 years. I just knew that. God revealed that to me. But once I moved home, I had all these opportunities open to me. The church I grew up in, I wasn't getting to lead worship at all. And that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. That is the talent God has given me, and if I can't serve in that capacity, it's really hard for me. And God opened the doors here at South Point for me, and I've gotten to lead worship on Sundays and Wednesdays and whenever else, and which has been that was a big uplifter when I was trying to get out of that funk that I was in. And it's really when you realize, when God reveals to you or gives you opportunities to lead and to do things, especially for me. Josh told me a couple weeks ago, he asked me, he said, will you come and talk? In the series we're doing, Brittany's going to talk, Ashton's going to talk. I was like, all right. So I prayed about it a little bit, and I knew God was leading me to talk. I was just like, I don't know. I'm not a very eloquent speaker at all, and which is funny because I'm going to be a teacher. That's what I'm in school for, which is kind of funny. But anyways, I was very nervous about it for about a week, and then as I studied more, I was like, okay, God, I see where you're going with this. I see what you're leading me to say, and even if I completely screw it up, I think they'll get it. But like I said, he's opened so many opportunities for me. If I wouldn't have moved home, I would have never met a lot of my friends that I've made here at South Point that I didn't know beforehand, who have become huge mentors in my life. Brittany and Josh wouldn't be back in my life. Ashton and Michael probably wouldn't be back in my life. I've met them several years ago too. I would have never met Drew Parrish, who's like a brother to me now. And so I just there's all these people I can just name that are huge influences on my life that I would have never known if I wouldn't have followed God. And His telling me to come home and to change churches and all this stuff. And I would have never met the guy I'm dating now, who's an awesome Christian guy, and who couldn't be here tonight, but that's okay. But anyway, so you get my point. When you follow and you're faithful to God and you're in His will and you're doing what God wants you to do in your life, He's gonna open opportunities for you, and that's a really exciting thing. Like, I don't know if you guys realize that, but that's like a really exciting thing. I would have never changed my major to be a teacher. I would have still been in music and probably very not enjoying myself at all. And I know that God's leading me, to be a teacher, and then I'm going to be able to impact lives of teenagers for a very long time, which is very exciting for me because I like teenagers. I like you guys. You guys are fun. So, but yeah, all that to say, guys, that's all basically my story, and I hope that you guys kind of see me as just like you guys now. Like, I've been through things that you guys have been through, or that you will go through. I hope I don't seem like, this adult that you can't really approach, because you guys can come and talk to me about anything, like, whatever. Whatever. And, I'm here to be your friend. I'm here to be your mentor. I'm here to pray for you guys. And so there are, Brittany, Josh, everybody. So that's my story. Sorry, I kind of stumbled a little bit, but Alan and Ashton will come back up. I'm going to pray, and I guess they're going to sing another song, and that's fine. Awesome. Roll with the punches. And I guess we're going to have a little time of prayer. The leaders are going to come over to the sides, and if you want to pray with any of them, that is awesome. If you don't, that is awesome. So yeah, I'm going to pray for you guys, and then they're going to sing a little song. God, we come to you, and we love you. God, I pray that I got your words across to these kids. God, I pray that you would be with them, God, and that some of the words that I said will resonate with them, God, and that they will see that their leaders, just like me, are not perfect people, that we struggle too, that we just want to follow you, God, even though we mess up. I pray that the students in this room really and truly do have desires to follow you, God. I pray that if they're not right now, that they'll realize that they need to be. God, I pray that you just put a love and a desire for you in their hearts, God. I pray that you would just wrap your arms around those that are hurting in this room, God, because I know some aren't. God, I pray that you would just love on them, God, because I know that there are kids in this room that are hurting, God, and that are going through things that I went through, and that other people in this room have gone through depression and self-harm and who knows what else, God. But you know, God, you know what they're going through. God, just be with them and love them. And God, I pray that if any of them want to make any kind of decisions, follow you tonight, God, that they won't be afraid to come to us. Or if anything else is going wrong and they just want us to pray for them, God, I pray that they won't be afraid. That they'll come to us, God, because that's what we're here for. God, we love you. In your name I pray. Amen.